Hi, welcome to PeopleTools Tech Tips. I'm Randy Gronke, and today we're going to talk about BI Publisher report categories. Hi, if you're here, you probably are here because you got an error in your system saying user XXX does not have access to report definition Y. Now, you know that's a BI Publisher report, and you know that you have access to that report, and many other people in your implementation also have access to report, but that one or that group of people don't. Well, the error most likely is report categories. Now, delivered with PeopleSoft, the delivered report category is, of course, all user and all reports get that. But you can have more report categories. Well, what is a report category and how are they used inside of PeopleTools? Well, a report category is sort of like the row-level security on BI Publisher report definitions. If you have access to a report definition through the category, you have access to see the report definition and also access to use the report inside of PeopleSoft. If you don't have access to the report definition through the category, you can't run the report and you can't see the report. So why would you want to do that? The simple implementation says everybody has access to everything. But if you go back and think about BI Publisher and the bigger idea of how it's designed is that the data for the report is separated from the report itself. So you can have one data source and you have multiple reports using that data source. So what we can do is have a complex data source with a lot of information on it and then have different report templates designed towards the users to show exactly which data that is appropriate for that level. Let's say a work order on a factory floor. We may have to just see an invoice and the floor manager just may need to see the items in the invoice and the number of the items, and that's it. However, maybe a higher level manager may want to see items, the cost, and the sales price of the item into that list to go out there. We don't want to get that lower information to the user, that lower level user, and we want to give better information to the higher level users. Well, we don't have to have two different data sources. We can have one data source and using our report templates, give them the report templates that only shows the data that's appropriate. Well, how do we control who sees what other than through a navigation security inside of PeopleSoft? Another way is through report categories. We can have a report category that says manager, and that manager has more detailed reports than the user, and then we can have another one that says user, and those are usually the least detailed reports and least information in there that could be sensitive. What we don't need to do is create multiple data sources per each sets of these reports that basically show the same thing, but more granular detail as the different user groups require them. The problem comes when we have a user that requires a report but they don't have access to it. They do not have access to the report category. Well, how does the user have access to the report categories? Well, inside of BI Publisher setup, we go to the report categories and we can maintain or add new report categories. And in that component, we define which roles have access to this report and also at what level access do we have access to that report as an edit or just view. Now, most likely you just want to have your developers and your BI Publisher super users access to edit those report templates. Everybody else, you just want to view the report. If you don't have access here, you can't see the report. So how do we clear up this error? Well, first we go to the BI Publisher report definition for that specified report and look at the report category. Then look up that report category in the BI Publisher report category configuration page. What roles have access to this report? Then look up the user, and does the user have any of those roles that have access to the report? My guess is that they don't. So you have one or two options: add one of those roles to the user or create a new role or whatever and add it to the BI Publisher report category configuration to include that user's roles in there. Either way, by the end of the day, the user must have one of the roles that have access to the report through the report configuration and the BI Publisher report definition page. So that's basically it. We have BI Publisher reports. And If you want to get more granular with your BI published reports as far as who can see them, you can start dividing and separating those reports up by report category. Use report categories to discern the different levels of reports for the different levels of groups. Maybe you can save some time, coding, and customizations by making fewer data sources that work for multiple different reports, which are locked down by security to exactly who can see the reports with the correct data. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing to our channel, and we'll see you next time here on PeopleTools Tech Tips.